Everybody has a job to do. Everybody has their thing, so to speak. Well, my thing was breakfast. My thing was eggs and bacon, toast and home fries. That's what I did. I was living out in paradise, working at the Midway Cafe, which was totally appropriate, because being out in the middle of nowhere, you're midway between somewhere and somewhere else. And if that's not the middle of nowhere, I don't know what is. And in the middle of nowhere, you don't get that many people. And who you do get, you get to know fairly well. So I would cook the same breakfast for the same people all the time. And I'd been there for about 5 years. Not intending to be there for about 5 years, but I'd ended up being there for that long. Through no more choice than anybody has for anything they ever do, anytime. And what happened was, this woman came in, and she stuck out like a sore thumb, though much prettier. Now, normally, we get truck drivers, and we get our local people, and if we get anybody else at all, we get tourists passing through. And I figured she was some such person. But when she had come in 5 days in a row, and had sat in the same booth, and ordered the same breakfast, and staring at me every time I passed the window and look out at her, I did think something out of it. What I was thinking was, why in the world does somebody want to do that? Seemed as though she was trying to send me messages with her eyes every time I looked at her. So I decided that I would try and send her a message too. And I would use that which I had at my disposal, which was breakfasts. And I would just tell her a thing or two about my feelings and things, but by the way that I cooked for her. And I would create something beautiful. Well, I set about to make her the most beautiful breakfast she had ever had. Now, you might think that I'm a bit crazy to have thought that I could even approach her. But one thing you got to keep in mind, people are strange. The breakfast was perfect. I was almost embarrassed because I thought that the waitress would notice and know my intentions. Well, if she did, she never said. I waited for the woman to eat it and let me know if she understood what I was trying to tell her.
I couldn't help noticing that was the most beautiful and delicious breakfast I've ever had. I know I shouldn't be back here, but I had to meet the artist that created it.
I was inspired.
Really?
By a beautiful and mysterious muse. Well, next time I looked out there, she turned, and damned if she didn't give me this look that said, I understand, and I am willing, and you just ask and I'll say yes, clear as day. So I figured I'd better take the bull by the horns and get out there and do my stuff. When a woman likes you, and you like her, and then you show that you like her, well then she doesn't like you anymore. You don't want to want somebody more than they want you. And if you do, then you damn well better not show it. So I didn't know which of us wanted the other more, but I wasn't going to be the one that showed I wanted her more, if indeed it was me that wanted her more than she wanted me. So I thought the best way to be would be to play a bit of a waiting game and not appear too anxious. But while you're doing this, it's always good to keep in mind that you don't want them to forget you. So you want to keep some sort of attention going in their direction. Well, I figured I was doing this, and that I was doing everything the way it should be.
Warm that up for you? Warm that up for you? Warm that up for you?
When I felt she was ready, I asked her out on a date. I picked her up after work. We drove through the cooling desert. She hummed along to the songs on the radio. Her hand was gliding up and down in the warm airstream outside her window, riding the waves like a seabird. We went dancing, my hand resting on her back, holding her delicate, cool fingers in mine. So small and fragile, could almost have crushed them. Her hair brushing my cheek, the smell of her perfume. Later we went to the drive-in, and we sat together in the car. I got up my nerve and put my arm around her, and she rested her head on my shoulder. But at the end of the film, she cried when the hero died. Well, I kissed her to make her feel better. Well, I figured that's how it was going to go. I felt pretty confident. And just around the time I felt the most confident, I figured I better act on it. And so I stood up to do my business, and I found she was gone. But I didn't take it too hard because I realized it would give me more time to get myself better prepared. When I had finished that and was leaving, I noticed that her booth was there. And I looked at it, and I looked at all the things that she touched. You know, salt shakers, and napkin dispensers, and all that. And a tabletop. And I looked over to where she is looking at me when I'm looking at her. So, I was interested. Something I noticed. So I got shaved, put some aftershave on just to make sure. There's not that many choices in aftershaves. Everyone buys the same damn thing. Well, another man will be wearing the same aftershave, and she happened to know some guy like that, and then when she smells me, she might be reminded of this other gentleman, and that certainly wasn't what I wanted when she smelled my neck, and so I didn't feel good. But I couldn't bother washing it off. I wasn't going to necessarily invite her back, but if the moves were right, well, you have to be prepared for every instant. Because if you're not, then if that instant comes up, then you won't be prepared for it. So it's best to think of everything ahead of time, and then you won't be thrown for a loop. So I felt like I had everything pretty much under control. I felt very good, actually, because I felt like I was very ready, and I was very eloquent, and I was really prepared to give her a sonnet or something of the sort with this breakfast that I prepared for her. Well, I was doing a very good job on all the other breakfasts that came up on the wheel. I guess I was inspired by the thought of her. It seemed like I could do no wrong. I have to say I was pretty happy. Then time went on, and it started to seem like she wasn't going to show up. And so I didn't feel so good when she kept not being there every time I looked out. I guess I felt a little disturbed. I figured it just wasn't going to be. Well, it was just a folly on my part to think things were going to work out any different than they were working out right now, in that they weren't working out at all. I realized that it was really my own fault because I had kind of gotten my hopes up and it wasn't really a logical thing to do. I thought I had come to an understanding, but I guess I really hadn't. But I really wasn't very happy nonetheless. Actually, I felt like it was time to move on, because I'd been there a lot longer than I wanted to be there. Sometimes this kind of thing is good because it can shake you up enough that it gets you out of your rut. And you can move on to bigger and better things. Well, the heat was getting bad too, and the grill was hot back there, and I was sweating, and water would drip off me and splash onto the grill and sputter around.
What can I get you? I'll have bacon and eggs, sunny side up. Any juice? No, thanks.
And then I read this order, which looked like her order. And I saw it was her order, and I was very surprised. I hadn't expected her back there, especially after what had happened. I guess I let my emotions get the better of me, because I just got a little mad. I didn't feel very good, and so lost my temper a little bit, and I was just trying to explain to her how I actually felt. Seeing as how I'd communicated with her before, well, I was just trying to do it again, but not quite in the same vein. Now, maybe I was a bit crude in spelling it out, and maybe I didn't pull my punches like I should have, but I guess you can't always control yourself. When I put it up there, I felt I'd been pretty honest about it, and she'd come to know what I felt. Well, I felt a bit sickly. I had trouble breathing, and I had a very strange feeling that wasn't very good. And I could hardly move. But when I figured that I would be able to move, I would just move on out that back door, and I would just keep on moving, and this would be the time in which I would leave and move on. But at that moment, I couldn't move. And then I heard a crash, which I figured to be her plate smashing against the wall, egg everywhere and yellow slime dripping down, and well, I peeked out to see, but it weren't nothing of the kind. Well, her plate's still there. Well, she understands. She accepts. She's redeemed me. She will always understand.
Just direct your feet to the sunny side of the street.
Well, I can't wait to tell her more.